Funders. How many of you want to invest in this organization? Why?
Clear outcome.
Clear outcome, yeah. Well, is it a good outcome? I mean, what? Leverage. Okay. Here's another one. Now this, I'm going to try and get to the advocacy away from the direct services. This group was a technical advisor to create supportive housing. Anybody know who it is? Corporation for Supportive Housing, SMONRUF. Now, they saw themselves as a technical advisor. And when we looked at their annual plan, what kinds of things were they measuring? They were measuring the number of workshops they held, training sessions that they held, that kind of thing, as well as the number of units in the pipeline. Well, after talking to them about what they really wanted to see happen, they realized that they weren't a technical advisor, they were a catalyst. Now, how do you think that changed what they focused on doing?
Much more outcome-oriented.
Move them towards results.
What do you think they started measuring? Yeah, they were measuring that before. They started measuring the number of counties that, let me think how I can put this, that were proactively involved in creating regional plans that set aside supportive housing. They focused on creating mandates. Anytime the housing authority put out a request, that housing authority insisted that a certain percentage of units be supportive housing units. Do you know what happened to their inventory of supportive housing units? Pew. Yeah. Very interesting. It's a simple change that produces great results. They also focused on a time frame for how long those folks were who stayed housed. All right, last one. That's another advocacy situation. We got a data manager, publisher. They print 3 yearly reports. In this case, it's housing. Anna, who do you think who do you think this is? The Regional Task Force on the Homeless. And they decided, after getting all the stakeholders together, that they really wanted to be a research institute, and that their goal was to change policy. And so, what was the key thing, the key measurement they were going to look at?
How many agencies, governments adopted policies that promoted housing?
Exactly. Now they were going to determine success by how many governments convened, meaning decision makers, movers and shakers, convened and began to set outcome plans. We all know what an outcome plan is now, right? It's measurable, it's got milestones. You'll see more of those in the future. The key thing that they decided to do was to create a scorecard where they annually scored each municipality on key factors about dealing with transitional and chronic homelessness. What happens when news about your region becomes public? Do people want to talk? And yeah, the press is all on this and everything. So what they were using is the information, the same data they used before, in a new way to produce an outcome. They were still creating the same data. They were just now going to focus on getting it public and using that as a venue to convene all the mayors, for example. Yes, sir?
Name the last two nonprofits. I couldn't quite hear.
Certainly. The nonprofit on the bottom is the Regional Task Force on the Homeless. And you actually will have today a copy of their full 3-year plan. All their milestones, everything, just as a reference. The next one up was the Corporation for Supportive Housing.
Worked with the national office?
Worked with the local. Yeah. Okay. Good. Any questions before we move on? All right. Let's get into the nitty-gritty then. So the first step was to what? Determine your outcome. The second was to make it measurable. The third one is to determine your top initiatives. So you've decided where you want to go and what it looks like when you get there. Now the next thing is decide how you get there. And so the key thing that you're going to ask is, what's critical to success? What needs to change for us to get there? So what do you think they were for CRC, the Community Resource Center? What do you think their top initiatives were? Like breadline, housing units, and they suddenly decide they want to enable people to make personal action plans and become self-sufficient in 18 months. More case management. Hey. So their first 3-year initiative is actually the numbers. 3,800 individuals. That's the top thing that they're going to shoot for. And to do that, they know they need to perfect answers, scale case management, and they're going to have to create a volunteer situation. Now, how did they know they needed volunteer case managers? Well, they were crunching the numbers the entire time. You know, I told you they sat down and divided their target markets and figured numerically how many of those might convert, in other words, might become self-sufficient. Well, along with that, their, not CFO, their controller was crunching the numbers. And the numbers were outrageous. You know, they would have had to increase their budget size by $2 million just to make their first year numbers. How'd they come up with their first year numbers, by the way? They did that. They based it on last year, but they also looked at 3 years. And let's say, you know, at year 3, you want 3,000 of something.
They did an annual increase in expenses, so they projected.
Yes, yes. But where do you know where you want to be years 1 and 2? If you want to be at 3,000 year 3, where do you need to be by year 2? Probably 2,000. And at year 1, probably 1,000. So you build a framework, and then you work from within that. Yeah. So they knew they needed volunteer case management. What else would they need to change? What else do you think would be a key top initiative? God, you guys are so smart. They need to grow their annual funding to a certain amount. So by the end of 3 years, they want to be at $5.5 million on a sustainable basis. And they also took a look at what the big chunks. You always want to look at the 20% that makes 80% of the difference. So they knew it was government grants, and they also knew it was donations over 100K. You think this organization had received a lot of government grants in the mail? No. What about the 100K? What is that? That's a major donor program, right? Do you think they have a value proposition now that could attract major donors on an ongoing basis? I'm seeing some head shakes, so you think so. Anybody know what actually happened with this organization? Last week, they were approved for a $1.6 million grant. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else are they going to have to do? Yeah, they need to make sure they got the flow into the pipeline to get the 3,800 out the other end. I think they need to figure out which type of people. That's a great point. Actually, it wasn't one of their initiatives. I think the folks are there. It was actually to build organizational capacity. They're growing an entire organization. So, and I'm just giving you some highlights here, by the way, but how important do you think the